Good evening, everyone. I'm Lizzie Andrews. Tonight, I am introducing Dr. Mary Neal. She's an orthopedic spine surgeon with an amazing story to share with us tonight. During a trip to South America, she was in a kayaking accident and drowned. But she is with us here tonight because, as the title of her book says, she went to heaven and back. Her life after death experience tells us of the love she experienced in heaven and her mission to share that love and hope with others. Her life has been one filled with the miracles and intervention of God. Her story gives us reason to live by faith and is a story of hope. We are all blessed that the accident showed Mary that it was not her time to leave this world. Please welcome Dr. Mary Neal.
Thank you. I'm going to start by reading from my prologue. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even heard, but must be felt with the heart. Helen Keller. God and his angelic messengers are present and active in our world today, and this involvement and its intervention is both ordinary in its frequency and extraordinary in its occurrence. Despite leading what I would consider to be a very ordinary life, I have had the privilege of being touched by God in very visible and very tangible ways. One of these experiences began on January 14th, 1999, when I was vacationing in South America with my husband. While boating, I was pinned underwater in my kayak and drowned. I died and went to heaven. After a brief stay, I was returned to my body, and I returned to my earthly life with 2 shattered legs and severe pulmonary problems. I was hospitalized for more than a month, wheelchair-bound for even longer, and did not return to my orthopedic surgery practice for more than 6 months. Many have described my accident as terrible and tragic. I describe it as one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. The series of events surrounding my accident and my recovery were nothing short of miraculous. Not only did I have the privilege of experiencing heaven, but I continued to experience the intensity of God's world for several weeks after my return. Through this experience and conversation, I gained an understanding of many of life's important questions, such as what happens when we die, why are we here, and why do bad things happen to good people. I also gained an understanding of the disciple Paul's statement from 1 Corinthians 13, that of faith, hope, and love, the most enduring is love. I already had reasons to believe in miracles, but taking a journey to heaven and back transformed my faith into knowledge and my hope into reality. My love remained unchanged and everlasting. One of the reasons for my return to earth was to tell my story to others and help them find their way back to God. Noblesse oblige. With privilege comes responsibility. Truly, God does not give us a lamp so we can hide it under a basket or a bed. He gives each of us a lamp so we may give light to the world. Light always dissipates the emptiness of darkness. Ultimately, I felt that if the reading of my story could bring even one person closer to God, then it would be worth the writing. Thus, I began to set down on paper an account of my observations and experiences. What I could not have known and did not know as I worked to complete my manuscript was that the sense of urgency compelling me to complete it was also God's hand at work in my life, for the story did not end there. I'm not sure if you realize it, but everyone in this room is going to die, and that is a fact. The only thing we can really choose is how we think about death and how we experience it. And the overwhelming majority of people in our society fear death almost as much as they fear spiders or public speaking. And as for me, I'm an absolute water person, but I always feared a drowning death, and I've never been comfortable speaking to large audiences or chatting with people I don't know. Leave it to a God with a sense of humor to let me drown on a South American river and send me back with a mandate to share my experiences with other people. I knew I wanted to be a surgeon from the time I was a little girl, and I spent more than a decade reaching that goal. I was very content, and I was very busy with my life, and contemplating the directive of sharing my story was somewhat laughable. My world and the publishing world did not intersect at all. And the journey from writing this manuscript to self-publishing to standing here tonight has been a very interesting adventure, and it's a story in itself. But before I could share my experiences with other people, I needed to really think through them and decide for myself what to make of them. And I spent the many, many months of hospitalization and rehabilitation thinking about and analyzing my near-death experience and the many miracles that occurred in the weeks following it. I reviewed my hospital records, I spoke with all of the people who were involved, and I corroborated all of the details that could be corroborated. I first considered whether it could have been a dream or a hallucination. Those are easy explanations, and I've had many of those in my life, but they have a distinctly different quality and memory. I've heard many people's stories at this point and their descriptions of their own near-death experiences, and we all say the same thing. We all say that we remember the details of our experience as precisely and accurately today as if it was happening real time. It's as though we're describing something using the present tense instead of recalling something from the past. And then I considered that maybe my experience was the result of a chemical release of a dying brain. The fact is the human brain can hang on to oxygen for about 6 minutes, and then it goes through a 1 or 2 minute period of time when there's a lot of chemical release, abnormal firing of your brain, and then it's over. And if my experience had lasted 6, 7, 8 minutes, maybe even 9 or 10 minutes, I'm sure that even though I knew what I knew, I probably would have accepted that that was a rational explanation. But the fact is that the people who resuscitated me would claim that I was without oxygen for up to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is far too long to survive, and although my kids might disagree with this statement, it's far too long to survive without severe brain damage. So for me, I came to the conclusion that not only was my experience more real than anything I've ever experienced here on earth, but indeed, it showed me that truly where medicine ends, God begins. It is written in the Old Testament that faith is being sure of what we hoped for and certain of what we do not see. And Martin Luther King Jr. described it as taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. At the end of my book, I wrote, "It is this faith that sets us free. It allows us to fully embrace life, dissolves fear, and replaces worry with hope. Faith allows us to confidently walk with God into a future filled with joy, one that can become an extraordinary and amazing adventure." Through my personal experience, my faith was transformed into an absolute trust that all the promises of God are true. There really is a God that knows each and every one of us, that loves each and every one of us as though we're the only one, and has a plan for each and every one of us that is one of hope. And I know that my life certainly has been a story of faith and hope and trust, but especially with the death of my oldest son, it has also been a story of great loss and deep grief. It is a story about what happens when a person says yes to God. My desire, if you read my book, is not that you will blindly accept what I have written or think it's a terrific story. My hope is that you will be inspired to take the time and make the effort to look for God's presence in your own life, because I absolutely believe that anyone who looks will find clear evidence of God's handiwork and will be able to make that same transformation from hope or faith into a trust. In making this conscious choice to believe the promises of the Bible, I believe that your life will be forever changed, and I believe that you will begin to wake up each day with an expectation of seeing God at work in your life and in the world, and with an expectation of experiencing His love. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for being here. And thank you for supporting the Bush family passion for literacy.